Now in this lecture we're going to be combining our for loops with our if-else statements to use continue and break. I'm going to go straight into how we can use these. So I'm going to use an example with a list that's, I'm going to have a list of fruit. I'm going to have apple, pear, banana, moldy banana, and kiwi. So let's say this is some kind of list that we have. Excellent. So now let's just try to iterate through the whole thing. So let's go for a for loop to do that. So for fruit, I'm just going to call it fruit. You can call this whatever you want. So some people call it I when they're just getting used to it. But using the word fruit is kind of quite readable and it makes sense. So anyway, so for each element basically in our list, then a colon, I press enter, it automatically indents 4 white spaces in there. So to indent you could do 4 spaces, but you could also just press tab. Good text editors tend to automatically indent for you, and then let's just print them out. So we're just going to do print fruit. Now just out of curiosity, what do you think would happen if we put in fruit list here? Have a pause the video and have a think about this. So what's actually going to happen is it's going to print out the list 5 times. So it's saying for each element, print out the list. So there are 5 elements in the list, so it's just printing out 5 times. Just an interesting thing to keep in mind, just in case that happens to you and you're like, wait, what's going on? Oh, okay, yeah, I've done the wrong thing here. So we've done this now, but now we can use an if-else statement to do something really interesting. We could say if the fruit is the moldy banana, for example, which we don't want to print that out. Let's say we don't want people knowing about our moldy banana. So usually we want it to print, but in this instance, if the fruit is equal to moldy banana, we don't want anything to happen. We just want to go back to we want to kind of ignore just this instance. This is where we can use something called continue. And when we say continue, we're basically saying if the fruit, so it's going to go through and it's going to do the first fruit, then the second fruit, and we're saying if the fruit is moldy banana, then just basically skip it out. Go back to the top and go on to the next element. And then we can just put else, make sure your else isn't here. You don't want that in the if statement, so then we say else, let's print out the fruit. So what's going to happen here is we're going to have all the fruit printed out except for moldy banana. Because what's happened here is okay, so for each element in this list, if it's moldy banana, well, apple isn't moldy banana, so we're going to print it. And then let's go to the next element, which is pear. That's also not moldy banana, so we're going to print it. Next one's banana, same thing. Next one's moldy banana. If the fruit's equal to moldy banana, which it is, then continue. All that happens then is it basically continues right up to the top, and it doesn't execute any of the code that's below. So we could also have print blah. So you're going to see it's going to print for each of these, but it's not going to print for the instance of the moldy banana. So it's just ignoring below this continue. If this if statement is true, underneath the continue it's going to ignore everything, and it's just going to go straight back to the top of the for loop and go on to the next element. So that's how we can use continue. Now let's say it's a production line or something, and if we see a moldy banana, we want to stop everything. So then what we do is we use break, and that basically says break out of the for loop, stop the for loop immediately. And so outside the for loop we could then print production stopped, moldy banana found. So as you'll see here now, it iterates through all of them until it gets to moldy banana, and then it says if fruit is equal to moldy banana, break. So it breaks out of the loop and ignores any of the code below, and then it goes on to the next line of code, which is to print this, and that's outside of the for loop. So that's completely irrelevant to the for loop. If we were to indent this, for example, then it would be printed every time until we got to moldy banana. So this is how we use continue and break. So continue, basically, we use an if statement, and if that If that statement is true, then we can just say continue, then it ignores anything that comes below it. If we use break, it works the same way, except instead of ignoring anything below it and then continuing with the next element, it just completely stops the for loop and it goes on to whatever code is below. So that's continue and break. What I recommend you do is do something similar. So you create your own list, add a for loop to iterate through the list, and then add an if statement to say if, for example, it's Molly Banana, or you could have something like if you had a list of numbers, you could say, you know, if the number is more than 50, then continue, or then break, those sort of things. See if you can add your own flavor to this and see if you can add your own application. So essentially you want to create a list, a for loop to iterate through it, then an if-else statement, and in the if you want to try playing around with continue and break and see how that works. So have a go yourself, and I'll see you in the next lecture.